Sure.
I should have recorded the introduction, but here we are. Because I know you're going to give us some jewels today. So let's talk about that. Um, let's talk about Stowe Communications. How old were you when you started it?
I was 26, I believe, when I started Stowe Communications. It was in 1996. I don't know how old I am right now. I started in 1996.
Do you remember those days at all? Like, do you remember what you were doing, what you did wrong, or what you did right? Is there anything that pops out?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of things. When you're an entrepreneur for over 20 years, you're going to have a lot of things that you remember to not do. But during that time, I guess I was going through, I had just lost my mother. So I was in like robot mode and I had goals and aspirations and training prior to my mom passing. But it was a perfect opportunity to move to New York from Philadelphia and do my career as a media buyer. So the things that I did do. I am very ambitious. Every no gets me closer to a yes. And I just believed that I could do something like in entertainment. I didn't know what a media buyer was because Stowe Communications Last Chic was predominantly a media buying firm. And that is purchasing, negotiating, and then purchasing 30 to 60-second commercial spots on television and radio. This is pre-internet. So that was a skill set that I didn't even know about. So I would say I should have had a business plan. I never had a business plan until the New Jersey Teamsters Soccer Club. So everything that I did was just written down as a goal and with the date.
So what moved you in that direction since you never did that prior? Was it the market was ripe for media buying? Did you see an opportunity? Did you leverage your network? What drove that decision?
Well, I guess the opportunity drove the decision. I had studied broadcasting. I knew I always wanted to be in the news field all of my life since 5 or 6. I loved the news. And when I got to New York, I brought my daughter. I had luckily I owned a home in Philly, so I only had maybe 2 paychecks. And I started out at a cell phone store. It was when cell phones just started. And that I got fired from there because they wouldn't pay me. So every day I'd go to work complaining about money. But so I had to figure out what to do. I had this child that was about 6 and I needed to earn an income. So I took another part-time job at Dahlia's, some catalog clothing line. And in the meantime, I was looking for work and I got a gig as an independent contractor for an advertising firm called Gelwicks. And they did real estate ads in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, like high-end publications. So I met a guy there, my boss, who believed in me because I was kicking ass in sales. I never knew anything about advertising. I only knew about news, but I could convince people to do things. And I said, listen, I come from radio background at Power 99 and I have friends at Bad Boy. Do you think I could go to them and get them to let us do their advertising? So he allowed me to go out and do it. So I had to bribe a secretary for about 6 months before I got an appointment with at the time, a head of a record label. And I went in and met with this guy, Kojo Bintel, who's still a friend today. And I said, let me put your ads in the Source magazine because I'm thinking Gelwicks is an ad agency. They can do full page ads as well. And what happened was he said, we don't need that. We get great deals. Can you buy media? And I was like, yeah. He was like, if you can get me great media buys, then I'll do a contract with you. So I left there and I told him I could do it. I didn't know what the hell it was. There was no cell phone Googling at the time. And I went back to Gelwick's Advertising. I said, Sal, we got an account with like Kedar Entertainment at Universal Records. I said, but I got to do media buys. That's how I got into it. Sal had to explain to me what a media buyer did, how to establish credit. You needed to establish credit with the television and radio networks before you could get a 30-day net to pay an invoice. So I ended up getting $100,000 deal to advertise Erykah Badu, a new artist that was a rapper that they turned into a singer. And I had to find $100,000 to establish credit. So that's my beginning.
So you established credit.
Well, I had Sal, who was an Italian guy that had another partner that was a Jewish partner. And so the Jewish guy didn't like me, but Sal adored me. So Sal taught me, he loaned me $100,000. He helped me set up my bank account, my incorporation papers. And then he said, pay me back when Universal Records pay you. So I was able to begin my credit by first having to pay for the first 6 months upfront to MTV, BET, all of the networks, Hot 97, all the radio stations for this girl's campaign. And then when I got paid, I had to learn how to do PO purchase orders and invoicing. I never knew anything about that. I had to learn how to do that and stick my logo there. I had to hire a graphics department from a printer. Oh my God, it looked like a whip, like a sex whip or something. It's like SC for Stowe Communications. But, you know, I made a brochure that felt like cardboard, but I'm realizing these things now, but that's how I marketed myself. I did that first media buy. And then after that, every artist under that record label, Kedar Entertainment, needed a media buying. They hired me, and then Universal Records, and then all the record labels, because I guess I was the first woman of color to be a media buyer. Didn't know what the heck it was. So yeah.
Wow. How'd you convince Sal?
Well, he believed in me because I was making him a lot of money. So what I did was I had him buy back, because as an independent contractor, all the new accounts I got at real estate agencies were my account. He was my clients, Gelwick's Advertising. So I said, I can sell him my account so he can continue to make money. So I said, listen, let me sell this account to you for 25 grand. I undersold myself, probably could have gotten more, but I had just started and was working with him for less than 6 months. So really, he had this account now for the rest of his business. So I got him that. And just because when I walked in the door, my first week, I was making sales for him. I had to cold call real estate agencies and convince them to allow me to buy their advertising lineage ads and display ads in the New York Times when they already had an ad agency. So
So what do you think it was about you?
Well, I have, if I believe in a product, I know how to sell it. So I have the gift of convincing, I can convince people to do things. My husband doesn't always like it. He's like, it's like a form of manipulation, but it's really not. It's PR, it's public relations. It's believing in the product and being able to sell it and knowing who the buyer will be or who your client is. And once you understand your client and their goal, everything, you should be able to figure out how to do it if you have the experience.
Were you prospecting? Were you figuring out the client's goal in advance of the calls, or were you having that conversation to learn about their goals?
Well, I knew nothing about real estate advertising, so I always had to ask questions. Yeah. I asked questions that seemed dumb. So I had such a crash course in per line advertising that it's funny, because some of my wording, I remember my definitions or how I would word things would be totally incorrect, and the realtor would correct me because they've been placing ads, but they enjoyed me. They enjoyed my personality. I think over the phone, I know to smile. That's something that's important. I know to have a positive mental attitude, because in sales, you're always getting rejection. So I wasn't afraid of rejection. Like I've never, I studied ballet, tap, jazz. Rejection is a part of dance, theater. You don't get picked for a part, or you're not the principal in the ballet. I'm rejected. I was used to that since 5.
Hmm.
So telling me no means nothing. I'm just going to think of ways that I could give you reasons on why you should do it. And if I didn't think you needed me, I wouldn't push it. I'm not pushy.
Financially, was that your most successful time? Like in your late 20s, would you say you had was that your strongest income years, or was it later in?
Um, I think as an entrepreneur, that was the beginning, because before I turned 30, I was certified a millionaire. But I had assets before I got in the game. So my mother passing, even before she passed, she gave me a home with no mortgage. So I had, you know, assets and things that helped me. I sold my house in order to put the revenue into Stowe Communications. So I think my biggest period of having money is when my mother was alive. Everything else is like you're working hard for it. Although I had to work hard for things that I got from her, by being a good person and, taking care of business and maybe doing chores or whatever she needed me to do. But I think my biggest earning years are coming. Like I'm not striving to stay on $1 million platform. I'm looking for billions, and I want to leave a legacy that's, hundreds of years for my heirs. So
So
I don't,
why do you
this
so
is,
if you're in the past, not the future or the present, but if in the past it was when your mother was around, what do you think it was about you that made you such a great, that allowed you that opportunity? Because I don't think it just comes, right? Nothing just comes.
yeah, it did for me. I'm an only child. So like my mom taught me to be independent. She had polio at the age of 5. And she's one of 11 children. She had to be removed from Philadelphia, from her family's home, and live in another state for kids with orthopedic diseases and needed therapy. So she learned a lot of independence and passed that on to me. A lot about determination. They told her she would never walk again. Here she walked. She jumped out of Army helicopters, became a paramedic in the Army Reserve, was a nurse in civilian life. So I never knew that there was nothing that I couldn't do. I knew that your behavior reflected what you attained. You do right in the house, you do right in school, you get allowances. You do go to your, you continue your goals. Going to ballet 3 times a week, that was discipline. So I learned discipline and determination very early. And being an only child, everything was given to me. So it was really hard when my mother passed to learn how to keep it, maintain what I had, and to be able to want more, because I knew it wasn't enough for me. So I don't know if I made sense, but
Yeah, what were your goals? Like, do you remember any specific goal? I remember one goal I have. I had one goal, and it was a financial goal when I was 22. I said, I want to hit this by 25, this by 27, this by 30. And now I'm like, I don't know. I'm putting together my goals for the next kind of evolution of myself. Do you remember any of your big goals?
yeah, I just wanted to be in news and I wanted to be famous. That was it. And I knew I'd have money, so that wasn't going to be a thing.
Hmm. In the news and be famous.
Mm-hmm. Like I was a journalist. I failed English. They told me I failed. No, the teacher was stupid. Like I was on point. I had to repeat an entire school year, right? In 10th grade, ninth grade, repeat ninth grade, because in Pennsylvania, if you fail English, you fail the year. And then when I got to 10th grade, they matriculated me into 10th and 11th grade. So I was taking double the load. But that's when I got into the broadcast program at that school. I'm still friends with my teacher, Mr. Cardellino, today. He's still like a mentor. I still keep in touch with a couple of teachers. But so I knew as a kid at 5, I would like the news. And I knew in elementary school, they had a career day. And because I like news so much, they had a sports newscaster be my mentor for the day. And he like mistreated me because I was a girl. So even though he wasn't nice and I wasn't wanting to go into sports, I still had that want to be a journalist. And my mother thought journalists were poor. So she made me back it up with the medical EMT license. You know, I had to go to school and get my EMT certification to just keep her quiet. But I interned at Power 99 in the newsroom. So I paid a lot of dues. I would have to get up at 5 in the morning, be at work at 6, a single mom that had some Sundays to bring my daughter to the studio with me. And she'd enjoy it. You know, it wasn't a hassle and I didn't think of it that way. But so I knew news was my thing. When I got into after Power 99 and I went straight into my own business with the advertising, I had dabbled in publishing for a small period of time while my mom was dying. I worked part-time. I came back from Jacksonville, Florida, and I came home to take care of my mom for 6 months. So during that time, I had some advertising experience, but it wasn't on the level of media buys. So I guess like, you know, I knew entertainment was my love because like I said, ballet, tap, jazz, I played the piano, played the flute, theater. So I knew it had to be in that realm. I didn't know how, but I made it happen. So how I got to start doing my journalism was I got to know all of the publishers and the editors as a media buyer. And I said, hey, listen, I could do a story on Jay-Z. And they go, okay, I'll give you the cover if you can do it. And I'd go out and figure out how to get Jay-Z on the cover, get how to land that interview. So I had to like be unconventional in my thought process in order for me to get to the journalism point. Because if not, I was just a media buyer in the music hip hop industry or a publicist. That wasn't my goal, but that was a platform for me to be able to meet other people in the industry that I wanted. You know, I'm still not on TV doing television news, but I don't think that's my goal now anyway. But I mean, that would have been my ultimate thing to be like the next Phil Donahue or Oprah. Mm. But I did it in my own way. And I'm satisfied today with how I did it, because if I did it just the way of news, I wouldn't have experience to be able to do all the other things in sports and now fact checking and proofreading for Drew Barrymore magazine.
So I'm smiling because I read somewhere when I was doing my research that Alex got you guys into sports and told you after the fact. Is that true? Or is that for the show?
No, that's actually true. Alex is a guy who, like, I don't like sports. I never, you know, I'm that girl that's not playing basketball or anything like that. I just did sports and physical education. And unless you think ballet is a sport. But he is a former NFL cornerback in Europe, and he played arena here in Connecticut for New England or whatever, too. So his thing is baseball, you know, all these sports, and he wanted to get a sports license. He wanted to get his football NFL license. And I'm like, okay, when I discovered, that's how he met Lee Steinberg. He went to a Lee Steinberg Academy. That's how I met Ryan. But when I discovered that you could invest 50 grand in a player, and then, you know, during scout week or draft week, he can go with a total different agent, I thought that would be detrimental to the player, because I would have to kill him if someone just like fucked us over off of our money. So I kept telling him, this is not a good idea. Like, so he goes, excuse me, he goes, you know, okay, I'll just go to the NFL draft and I'll go to a soccer draft. Because for some reason, every time we traveled to South America, Colombia, and Brazil, people would say, oh, Alex, you played football. Oh, I played football, but it's 2 different footballs. So there was no coincidence, we thought. And he goes, well, he just I figured out for him how to be a boxing official. I had him enrolled in that, called the commissioner of the state of New Jersey's boxing commission, and got Alex his license then. And then I said, well, if you're going to be, we should look into soccer. So he went to we called, I Googled who's the head of soccer in America, and it was US Soccer Federation. So I called them up. We had a discussion with them. You have to be like a grad school graduate or a lawyer in order to be an agent. So we figured out, we knew that had what it takes to do it. So they told Alex, call back in a year. We didn't know there was going to be a FIFA scandal. So in the meantime, Alex went to a national women's draft for soccer. And he walked the convention floor. I was not there. And he came home and he said, I just invested in a soccer club. And I was like, what? Like, he took the money for our home. We were buying a condo in Florida, I thought. And he said, calling that off, and we're getting a soccer team. So that's how we got the soccer team. He met someone at UPSL and they asked him to be a commissioner. He wasn't interested. And they said, what about owning a team? So that's how we got into soccer. Neither one of us played soccer. We never watched soccer. And we had to take a crash course by going to England and learning about soccer.
And you just got your place in Florida.
No, I didn't yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, so that
on the verge of. Well, the reason I brought this up is because I was just talking to Alex before I jumped on with you, and Alex said, I said, Sabrena's she's pretty patient. And we kind of laughed about it because in one way you're very direct, and in another way you're also very patient. Because that was never your plan. And one thing I know about you is you're very specific, like down to the word I speak. Like when I said you had a TV show on the Discovery Channel, right away I'm like, she didn't have a TV show. She was a star of a show. And that's something you would correct in my speech. So when did specificity become so important? Do you view that as something like one of your kind of superpowers?
Yeah, that's probably why I'm a fact checker. I never knew anything about fact checking. And I saw, I decided, hey, I'm going to follow Drew Barrymore's team because I want to work with her because she's positive. And the next day there was a job posting on Instagram for a fact checker, and I sold myself as a fact checker. I guess specifics is very important to me. I don't like mince words. Like if I ask a question and I don't get the answer, that frustrates me. Like I just want the answer. And I like just straight up real answers. I don't want to hear about, I think, I want to know what you know. So yes, that matters to me. Facts matter. Being specific matters.
Has it always been that way?
Well, when I'm doing PR, sometimes facts are not facts. So it just depends on the circumstances. But I've always been the type of girl that I respect the truth and I respect being straight up. So even if an answer is no, I would respect that. And I just respect knowing details. Because when you leave something out to me, I feel like you're omitting the truth if you know that you're leaving something out, kind of. So I'm really funny about that.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So, Alex also said on your LinkedIn that you, not to make this all about Alex, that you exemplify leadership. What's your definition of leadership? Because I agree with him.
Oh, thank you. The ability to lead. I'm definitely a team player. I like working in teams, or I don't mind working alone, but as long as we're getting shit done, that's to me is like a skill set that a leader has to have, and the ability to delegate and to oversee a project. So leadership is more than being the helm of something. I think it's a characteristic that can get you from point A to point B. Or I'm sorry, point A to point Z. B is too quick to get to.
Talk
Yeah.
to me more about leadership.
Well, to be a leader, you should be honest. And you should, sometimes it might be a brutal honesty, but you need to be honest. You need to be able to uh, oversee a group of people or a project and just set the goals and a time span of when things need to get done. You need to be consistent. That's important. And that's it. I mean, listen, I don't mind if you're an arrogant leader, if you're an asshole leader, as long as you can lead and make the team understand the overall goal and everybody's working in that direction, then cool. Be whatever type of leader you can be. Because I'm not always a nice leader. Some people call me like the devil wears Prada.
So when you're setting goals, is it you setting the goal or is it the team set? Like, are you like, all right, we need this by this date? Or are you coming to the meeting like, okay, guys, let's have a conversation about what we need and when we need it by?
I'll do both, because you have to listen in order to know what's needed, who has, someone may have some great ideas that you need to tap into or add to the agenda. So I think it goes both ways. You have to go in, listen to the team, but you also have to go in with strategy. Like, I don't think that you should go into any meeting unprepared. When I meet someone and I'm having my first meeting, I Google them. I want to know who I'm meeting with, what they've done, so I'll know what I need to ask or how I can help them or vice versa. So yeah, you got to ask questions and you got to have a strategy. Like Alex says to me all the time, he'll say like, I'll say, oh, I want to go to a meeting and meet with such and such, it's a lunch meeting. And he'll go, well, what's the goal? Like, why are you doing it? You can Zoom call them, because he's the frugal one and he doesn't, he's like, we're spending money to meet with who and why and how important is it? And what's your end goal with this person? So I learned that later in life because I would meet with anyone. And now I'm more targeted, I guess.
Alex said you sometimes wake up at like 2 or 3 a.m. and you're listening to motivational stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Um,
Wake up smiling.
yeah. What drives you to do that? Do you know?
Well, yeah, I lived in Jacksonville, Florida for a couple of years, and I worked at a job in sales, security sales, closed circuit TV systems. And part of that job requirement was to go into the office at 6 a.m. and to have these powwows. And I'm like, who the hell wants to do that? Like, whatever, I'll try it, because I was like, if I can make 2,000 a week back in the early 90s, like 88, 89, like, let me go and get up at 6 a.m. and see what these guys are doing. And my boss had us listening to motivational tapes, Stan Ballou, Zig Ziglar, Lou Holtz, all types of people that I had never heard of. The only person that I could think of that taught me that determination was my mom. But these guys, they were on a different level. And so it was empowering to me. So even when my mother got cancer and I had to leave, I got a call at midnight and I left on a 7 a.m. plane and never went back to Jacksonville. I still kept that training with me. So I started buying cassette tapes that I could pop into my car, because that's when cassettes were out. And I would listen to it as I was driving my mom to therapy or just whatever. So that's how I learned about positive mental attitude, smiling when you're speaking to people, being enthusiastic, being excited about life. All of those things matter. Your attitude matters, because the universe, I learned about the universe. Prior to that, I was Catholic. I knew about God and Jesus. But with that motivational course, 2 hours every day, 6 days a week, I learned about the universe opening up and, like, if it's what you think that will bring it to you, not just how hard you work. You have to think it. Your speech has to mirror exactly how you're thinking. And then wake up, dream in color, wake up, jot things down, have your goals in your wallet, pull it out. Like, I learned that stuff from there.
Mm. Um, and you still do, which is amazing. Because you're not in a sales role technically. I mean, you're a contributor to a magazine.
No, I'm not in a sales role there.
But you're still
But,
listening.
well, because I write the most important pages, in my opinion, Drew's News and Extra Extra, they just gave me that assignment because before I was just fact checking and proofreading. And, I started putting my resume out there, like I want to do more contributing, writing, that's what I enjoy. And I just asked them, I said, can I get more work? And they're like, sure, you're right. So, I mean, I ended up getting Drew's News. That's the highlight of her TV show. And people think it's what Drew likes, but it's really what Sibrena likes. So I'm not selling anything because I'm not in the advertising department, but I think my words are important and my words make people smile when they read it because it's such a great quirky and a good vibe type of magazine. So I'm allowed to write with that feeling. And that's why they like my writing. They're like, yes, give us more of that energy. So
So do you listen to it and write, or it's kind of, they don't
no,
happen in parallel, right?
no, I barely watch the show. I do turn it on. It's just, and it's the
No,
volume.
not the show. I'm saying like Eric Thomas or some of these speakers, these keynote speakers. Are you listening and doing your work, or are they two separate functions?
Two separate functions.
Yeah.
I wake up and listen to YouTube or, something from one of my guys that I like. I'm mostly men that I like to listen to because women are very sensitive and I'm not. I'm like a personality. I like it raw and honest. So that has to be the first thing I do when I get up. And while I'm, it's just a good time because there's no disturbance.
Yeah.
And I also work at 5 a.m. So I'll start fact checking and proofreading afterwards. So it's never together. I listen to music while working.
And one of our memories is when you told me to read an operating agreement 5 times, and I did that, and it really helped me out. So that probably draws back to your specificity. But some things I've noticed is like you always look the part, you always know what you want, and I'm just curious, like if you were in our shoes, what are some of the things you would tell the four of us on the call? Like looking back, what are some of the things you're really proud of, or things you're really proud of looking into the future? Like, well, if I were to just say, Sabrina, you got 10 minutes, share, what's in your mind, what would you share with us?
Well, I would just say really do the things that you love. And don't sleep on opportunities. A lot of people, they like talk about prayer and, oh, I'm praying to God that this happens. Like, if you're not doing something about it, don't wait for him to do it. You got to run to opportunities. Some people wait for them to walk over to them. And I'm like, you could have had that thing 5 times by now. So, number one, most importantly, have goals, have something that you want to wake up to every day. It could be short term, long term. I just discovered people don't know what they want to do. I never heard of that. So it's like, okay, take it one step at a time. Also, be kind to yourself because you will be frustrated. You will have peaks and valleys. Like that's normal, that's life. Learning from the peaks and valleys is what builds your character. And so you should pay attention to what you're getting out of something, not the fact that it failed or that it succeeded. Like, what were the things that made each component, each part of that experience happen so that you could remember what to take from it and what to leave back? Because a lot of people like to talk about the past and, oh, I didn't do this right and I didn't do that right. Like, that doesn't even exist anymore. Move forward. And then I would recommend like staying on motivational books or like self-help books because it's lonely as an entrepreneur, not, especially if you're a sole proprietor. People don't believe that you can do everything. Like sometimes things that you need to keep to yourself so that you don't have any influence of self-doubt or, influential in doubting yourself, because sometimes you're just going to doubt yourself. Like, can I really get this done? If you really want it, you can get it done. And if you have to get creative, be willing to get creative. Like Ryan likes to say, he doesn't ever want to work with an asshole, character matters, but it doesn't. You're going to, you go into a supermarket, anybody at the cash register could be an asshole. It's nothing personal. So separate your emotions from the business. That's very important, because you don't have to like people in order to do business with them. And if you have to like people to do business with them, well, you're going to limit yourself, because people are going to disappoint you. And my mom used to say, don't burn any bridges that you're going to need to cross again. Sometimes you may want to stay on your side of the bridge, but you don't have to torch it. I used to be so brutally honest that I would make people like, don't come across my bridge again. I don't think people should do that today. I think people should, try to talk through any problems, especially when it's female-led businesses and you're dealing with other women. Women are very emotional and catty. So if you, kind of get through that phase as a female entrepreneur dealing with other women, you'll be great. And I would make all the men my brothers. Because if you're beautiful inside or out, people are going to be attracted to you. This could be reversed for the men as well. Make your female colleagues more of a brotherhood or sisterhood, so that you're not in any uncomfortable situations, or you can put people in their place immediately. With all this Me Too movement stuff, I never experienced that stuff. Like, people would try it, but I would nip it in the bud. And I just think that I'm trying to use these 10 minutes and give you little things that are important. Like, so that comes into play. My mother used to say, don't eat where you shit. So you don't date people wherever you're working. Just coincidentally, I'm dating my husband, I guess, and we're in business together, but I did not, I have a great reputation in hip hop for not sleeping around. And then another thing my mom taught me is, a closed mouth don't get fed. So if you don't ask for what you want and you're not honest about it to the person, like, don't expect anything, because people just can't read your mind. So go after what you want, like, really be serious about it and do it. Don't, it may take some time of planning and strategizing, but just get it done. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. Right? I published a whole magazine. I did it for 3 issues and I hated the experience and I didn't want to wake up to it again. But it's okay that I'm still not publishing. I didn't want to force myself to do something that I didn't like. So I had to make a decision and be okay with myself saying, you're not a failure. You did it. You fucking published it. It's in freaking supermarkets all over the South. Like, you don't have to keep doing it. So keep that in mind. If it's something that you're not loving and it's causing you a lot of mental anguish or stress or an anxiety, it's okay to let it go. It's totally fine. Move on to something else. And then, just like me, like, I took, it seems like a long cut to become a journalist, but timing is everything. And the more experiences you have in that field, even like, if I was in technology, and say I only knew how to troubleshoot, well, I probably would want to take a coding class, just because that's something that I should probably understand, not necessarily want to do as a career. But there's so many cheap online courses that you can do for yourself and do it in a week's time. But keep yourself educated, keep yourself informed within the industry that you are going into. So I don't play soccer, but I know all about soccer business. I had to learn. We just started that business in 2017. It's 2023. No one can tell me anything about how to run a soccer team. And I've never played it. So I still don't know what's going on, except, hey, you need to make it into the net that's on where my goalie is wearing the jersey. That's what I know, as in terms of on the pitch as a player. So you don't have to be a soccer player or have a soccer coach experience to own a soccer team. And that's the same thing about you guys. Whatever you want to do, you don't need the experience. Like, I didn't know how to proofread fact check, but I Googled the hell out of that shit. And guess what? I'm like 2 years in without any mistakes in the magazine because I'm the last signature. So if it's a fuck up in there, it's mine. So I would be the first to be let go. But because I'm so meticulous and I'm focused and I love what I'm doing it. And whatever I don't know, I Google it. You guys, before Google, I had to go to the library. I have to look it up on a microfiche. I got to look it up in a book. You guys have everything at your fingertips. And I find the younger generation is just not willing to go the extra mile to get the information because they think it should be readily available. No, go search for it. And, that's basically it. I just say, keep living your life, making your goals, be okay with making mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you don't know what the hell to do right. And don't feel bad about being in the valley. That is the time that you should really focus the most when you're having the biggest hurdle of your career. That's the time to lock in and crawl and dig and crawl your way out. And don't think you're alone because the billionaires have the same problem. It's just a different level. And my father taught me, everybody has their own level of success. So even if you think you should be somewhere where you're not, like that's a level where you're supposed to be right now. And only you could help elevate yourself through education, through, conversation, being willing to listen, and just what be your intention. Like, what is your intent? If you have a good intention, then the universe brings you good. But don't just think you're going to pray about it and it's coming, because that's not how it goes.
When I read everything and anything is attainable. Everything and anything is attainable if you believe in what you're doing and if you have the skill set and wherewithal to withstand the challenge. I
Yeah,
was like, you would be smart enough to put that second half in.
What, the wherewithal?
Yeah, like, and if you have the skill set and wherewithal to withstand the challenge. Like, I remember a few weeks ago we were talking about my grandfather's place in Florida. Stuff you said to me about like getting on the deed and this and that, it was kind of like voodoo to me. Like, I heard it, I wrote it down, lost the paper, and haven't done anything on that other than call him twice, because the wherewithal and the skill set is something that I was challenged by. So when you wrote that in the interview, or you said that in an interview, it really connected with me. And so what you would do in my position is what? Would you call Sibrena back and say, Sibrena, I messed up. I don't understand what you said to me. Will you give me 15 more minutes of your time and so I could follow up on this? Or would you start reading books? What would you do if you were Ryan?
Well, if I were
You
Ryan,
don't have the skill set.
Ryan could always ask me again, but Ryan better write that shit down. And Ryan better put it in cell phone notes so Ryan doesn't forget. But you got to still do the work yourself, dude. Like, nothing that's good is going to come easy. So if you're expecting, like, you got to have an honest conversation with your grandpa. Like, listen, you want me to help out? This is what I could do. This is what I want done. I want to be on the deed. Da, da, da. You be straight up with people, because then you'll know what's really going on, right? So you have that real honest conversation. And then after that, he will tell you what his budget is. You'll know what your budget is. Then you could start strategizing, right? Because no matter where you move, you got to have a budget, right? So then you can put everything into play. But the first thing first is the real conversation with your grandfather. And after that, you'll know how to move, whether you want to continue with it, whether you want to go ahead and say, hire a title search company that will then allow you to do a title search to make sure that whatever investment you're getting involved in, there's no liens on the property, whatever. Before you start kicking in your money, you want to see what everything is about. You got to be like an eagle and just look over the landscape.
Makes sense.
And you decide how do you want to move. Then you can come back to Sibrena and have another conversation, because the first conversation with me was the one thing, but the work needs to be started with you and your grandfather.
Yeah, makes
Then
sense.
you can ask me my advice.
All right. So we have 8 to 10 more minutes with Sibrena. Who does anyone want to jump in?
Who wants to be a millionaire? It's like, no. I've always wanted to say that.
Caroline.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi. I wanted to ask you if you would be open to sharing one of your greatest valley moments. So like the moment, like one of your deepest challenges that you faced and like what that journey looked like, and what it was. Like, yeah.
Okay, so I guess the real biggest journey that I've had to overcome that took over 15 years is starting an entrepreneurship and losing a parent, a mother. That mourning period, no one ever told me to go to therapy or bereavement. And so I delayed myself in true happiness, because every day, even though I'm listening to motivational tapes, my thoughts became negative because of that negative experience. And I think that impacted my attitude and how I treated people, because I was just rude, to be perfectly honest. So I had to overcome being arrogant and rude because I had money from, having money and being that way, or kind of being that way, and then having this bad attitude. So I think attitude always should be tweaked, and you should reinvent yourself every few years. Like, don't stay the same person. So I've had to learn how to grieve properly and just move on with that, if that makes sense, because that affected my career. Like that affected everything. I thought it kept me safe, because I was so no nonsense and and don't talk to me this way. And you're just like hyper. But it also, I could have been kinder to myself, and like, it's okay to grieve, but to grieve every day for 15 years is a lot. So try to get through things, even if you have to call a therapist. And that's something that I should have done a long time ago. Now I do therapy, and I'm like, oh, I can talk about anything. So as an entrepreneur, and especially if you work alone, you need people to talk to, and your spouse may not understand everything, or your boyfriend or your parents. So you need that objective person to help you navigate. That's what I would have done earlier.
Hey, thank you. Oh, I love.
Feel free to follow up, Caroline, like if you want to add to that at all.
I was thinking about the part where you mentioned that you didn't do that. Was there kind of like a tower moment that finally was like, oh, if I don't start like handling my emotions or like handling my grief, I'm going to burn. Like, was there like a burning of bridges moment? Was there, yeah, like
there was a health moment. I got rheumatoid arthritis and lupus, and I never had it, and it triggered it. My anger, my internal attitude, I think, caused me to have rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. And so I would get so stressed out and have these aches and crippling of my wrist, and I did not know why. And so something told me, one day I went to Philadelphia to visit my grandmother, and something, I was watching her TV, and a Creflo Dollar, this preacher, was on. I never watched preaching. And he said, sometimes you got to go to the valley to, go to the mountaintop to get fresh water and fresh thoughts. So it made me go to my house in the mountains. I owned a bunch of foreclosures in the Poconos, and I stayed there. And that's when I got sick enough. Like, I was sick already, listless, but I was able to go into the hospital there and find out what was wrong with me at 42. So I never had health issues until that, you know, for women, autoimmune diseases kick in, especially when you're in stress. So that triggered it. So that was my aha moment. I figured to myself, like, you know, I'm so intuitive. I was like, you fucking did this to yourself. And so when my daughter gets anxious, I'm like, no, 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 we're not doing that, because that causes illness. So I luckily, you know, people thought I was so funny and brutally honest that they didn't hold it against me, because whenever I did react, it was just cause, you know, like they knew they were wrong if I reacted a certain way. So people didn't hold that anxiety against me. And because I always got over it, like I don't stay mad at people. Like I say what I got to say and that's it. And we move on. So I didn't burn bridges in that manner. But if I didn't like you, I would set that bitch on fire. Now, you don't have to know that I don't really care about you. You know, like it's not even worth my energy or my time to explain everything once I've told you once. So it's like I don't even think the same. And I had to do it that way to stay healthy. Now they took me off of chemotherapy pills. I was on methotrexate till a year and a half ago. They took me off of thyroid pills. They told me I'd be on thyroid medicine the rest of my life. I go to the rheumatologist every 3 months. He tests for me because I could start crippling and lose my mobility of hands. And I was bedridden for a year, couldn't walk. So I know that anxiety, stress, and, you know, not talking can actually cause people to have cancer, illness, sickness. Like it's real.
Wow.
So that was my aha moment to like change, go back to like, be real about the positive mental attitude. Don't get upset. People shouldn't affect your emotions. People should not have that power. I mean, some people might still piss me off, but I handle it differently.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
And
Thank
change
you.
your diet too. Like my diet changed. So it wasn't just the one thing, but like organic, you know, gluten-free most of the time, no meat most of the time. So all these things, little adjustments in life. That's why I said you can reinvent yourself every couple of years. You can tweak these things that you see that you're lacking, you know, add to or take away.
All right, we got
Do you-
three minutes. Oh,
Okay. Let someone else ask a question. But
all
thank
right,
you.
cool.
Loved it.
Welcome, Caroline. Thank you.
Katrina.
I have one simple question. Sabrina, what is your zodiac sign?
Pisces, and
Pisces?
yes, and I think the moon is Capricorn, something like
I'm just, well, the reason I was wondering, because I find that, like the way I think, what you're saying is a lot of stuff that I even told Ryan before, and the way I think. So I was just wondering, maybe we both the same sign, but we are not. I'm Sagittarius.
oh, interesting.
I wasn't even sure if I was interviewing Sibrena or Katrina, to be honest.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Are all good.
All right, you got any final words for us, Sabrena?
Just keep kicking ass and taking notes. You know, that's all you can do. Try to enjoy this life. Like I was working. So I have all these work memories, but like, dude, I should have been like crocheting, taking a crochet course, like doing something. I used to love how to rug hook. Now I want to get back into painting, like do something else to help counter the work mode. Just try to enjoy life, party, you know, party hard and have no regrets. Do whatever you want to do. It ain't what you do, it's how you do it. That's it.
And you're one of the amazing things about you that I have written down is you're an opportunist. Like you've already been collabing with Marcel. You guys might sell a house together. You're collabing with Sarah, you know, in a mutually rewarding thing. Like you befriended me when you were working with Lee, it's like you're totally an opportunist, which so when you said to us earlier that an opportunity can drift away, like yes, you could manifest it, but you also got to take it. Like that's totally you. So anyways, appreciate you coming into the mastermind in a different role here, and it was nice. Thanks for giving us that recording.
Well, thank you guys for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Hopefully I'll be done this issue of Drew Mag. I think
Now
my
I know.
deadline is done on the 14th and I'll be free for a month.
Now I know why Joe Rogan does 2-hour podcasts, but it was a great time. I appreciate you always. So guys, let's all give it up, get a hug in, hug it out,
Whatever that is.
and see you next week. So just remember, you could change and impact someone's day by just opening a door for them, saying some kind words, spending 15 minutes with someone, picking up the phone, tell someone you're thinking about them, and that all makes a difference. Thank you, Sibrena.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.